Hello everyone, welcome to this new playlist, this new series of videos. In these videos, we're going to address different topics um, that you guys submit to us, or topics that people may have difficulties understanding. So today's video is on a question that was submitted. Why can we use two verbs together? So can we really have a verb and another verb? In fact, what we'll be talking about is a verb plus a gerund or a verb plus an infinitive. So what happens when a verb is followed by another verb? Let's look at an example. Here we have, I want to speak to the principal. Which word is the verb? Is it want or to speak? So any clause or any sentence requires us to have a main verb. If there is another so-called verb, it will be one of the following. It can either be an infinitive, to speak, or a gerund, speaking. So in English, some verbs can only be followed by infinitives. In our previous example, I want to speak to the principal. The verb wants requires us to use an infinitive, in this case, to speak. Another example is, she's learning to drive a car. Here we see that the verb, the main verb, is learning, and that we need an infinitive, which is to drive. Lastly, we have, he offered to help us clean the house. In this case, the verb offered is demanding that we use an infinitive after it. Similarly, in English, some verbs require us to use a gerund. For example, the verb enjoy requires us to use the gerund reading. In the same way, in the next example, he admitted eating the cake. The verb admitted requires us to use the gerund eating. Lastly, we have an example, I don't mind waiting for you. Here we can see that we have an auxiliary verb. But remember that we have to base ourselves on the main verb, which is mind. So this verb mind can only be followed by waiting. Now, in English, there are some verbs that can be followed by both an infinitive or a gerund. Now, usually, if you change infinitive or gerund, there will be a change in meaning. Okay, so if we look at the notes here, there is a group that accepts both with a change in meaning. And there are only a few verbs that accept both without a change in meaning. So we can cover some of these verbs in a later lesson, but I have an example here. I started to work in 2008. I started to work here in 2008. Here we see a gerund and an infinitive, but in this example, there is no change in meaning. Okay, other examples are the verbs begin or continue. And let me reiterate that the verbs that do not change meaning are very limited and there are a few of them. And whereas there is another separate group, okay, and this group accepts both, but it has a change in meaning, with a change in meaning. Okay, so we can look at some other examples perhaps and other groups of verbs in a later lesson. If you're interested in that lesson, please let me know in the comment section. Okay, and that will summarize our lesson for today. So I'd like to again ask you for support in subscribing to our channel and visiting our webpage, where you can find some exercises relating to this video. I will link the webpage in the comments below. So thank you guys. See you in the next video. If you are interested in any particular video, please let me know in the comment section. See you guys.